Welcome to the Extended Bench, your YouTube home for all things rugby league news, analysis, history and opinion. Subscribe so you don't miss a video and give us a thumbs up. The Extended Bench is part of the Rugby League Monthly Network, which includes a monthly online digital magazine available at rugbyleaguemonthly.com and the daily podcast Rugby League Daily, which airs during the NRL season. All links are down below in the description. Let's get into it. Dr. Jekyll, meet Mr. Hyde. You two will be roommates for all of 2021. And that's what we got from Parramatta throughout most of last season. We had games where they played until the 80th minute, tore some teams apart, and even managed to beat Melbourne on two separate occasions. And to the point where people thought if they got through Penrith in the finals, they would beat Melbourne and go on to the grand final. But it was a 1 month period that saw them hammered by the Roosters, Manly and Rabbitohs that took a lot of the optimism out of their season. On the plus side, they managed to play finals for the third consecutive year, which is something they hadn't managed to do since the Brian Smith years. And despite all of the upheaval for the off-season, there's not a hell of a lot of change to their squad for 2022. Pretty much everyone that's signed elsewhere are moving in 2023, so the Eels have a big opportunity here to keep the core of their side together for the rest of the season. And the only departures of note are Blake Ferguson, who has turned out to be quite a good departure, and Will Smith, who quite often was a fill-in player. He wasn't a regular player in the 17. But Will Smith is an interesting decision to allow him to walk. He provided valuable cover across the halves, hooker, and the back line throughout his time at Parramatta. He was very, very dependable whenever called upon. So the Eels must be looking and considering Ray Stone to cover hooker, and we may even see Jordan Rankin get his first NRL start and seems like forever at some point this year, given his experience in the halves, and the Eels don't really have a headline backup half. And speaking of hookers, while Joey Lussick has headed back to England, the Eels did pick up Mitch Rain to back up Reid Marnie. They have a massive amount of stability across the majority of their squad, as I already said, and there have been some questions over who would replace Blake Ferguson, but the recruitment of Canberra's Bailey Simonson seems to have answered that particular question. And with Maker Sivo recovering from an ACL reconstruction, the starting wingers will be Hayes Dunster and Bailey Simonson. Just on Dunster, he seemed to really grow into his role throughout 2021, and by the end of the year he was averaging over 130 metres per game. But for me though, Will Penasini is really the ace in the hole here for Parramatta. The centre position was a tough one for the Eels last year, with Wonga Blake, Tom Opacek and Murata Nukore all playing there, until Penasini made his debut and quickly nailed down a starting spot, to the point where Opacek's probably going to be spending most of the season in reserve grade. It seemed that with Wonga Blake shifting from the right over to the left and a change in defensive structure, the Eels managed to clamp down on some of their defensive weaknesses. The outside backs seemed more organised when they were coming up and in, while their slide defence didn't lead to giant gaps opening up in the middle. And looking at that hairy month where they conceded 124 points in 3 games, they then only conceded 54 points in their next 4 full-strength games at an average of 13.5 points per game. And I say full strength because they did get walloped by Penrith in the last game of the season, although the Eels did roll out their New South Wales Cup side for that. And it's that into the season that his Eels fans most excited. The fact they beat Melbourne twice during the season and then only fell to the Panthers by a combined total of 3 points when they played their full-strength team means they can match it with the best. What they really need to do away with, though, is the handful of shocking performances they can also throw up. And Mitchell Moses is really starting to enter the golden age of his career. He's made his Origin debut and seemed to grow into his role as the season progressed, while Reid Marnie will want to leave the blue and gold with good memories when he departs for Belmore at the end of the season. But the major pressure is going to be on Dylan Brown. Some of that pressure is unwarranted. He's still pretty young in his career, and as Moses has shown, most halves develop better with age. But he's going to need to bring more to the table in 2022 to give the Eels that extra dimension in attack that will help unsettle high-class opposition. He's already the best defensive half in the game, and he's got a pretty good foundation in terms of his ball playing and kicking range, but he's going to need to add some more try and line break assists to his game to take Parramatta to the next level. And I haven't really touched on their forward pack because not a lot needs to be said. They're one of the best forward packs in the game, and for mine, Junior Paulo and Regan Campbell-Gillard, and this is going to sound a bit biased, but they're the best starting prop rotation in the competition. And of course, being an Eels supporter, I'm going to be very optimistic with this year. I'm looking forward to another top 4 finish. I'm going to say preliminary final. That's my head, my heart. Obviously, I want to see us win the comp for the first time since 1986. So if I'm being sensible, it's a top 4 finish with a preliminary final. I'm talking about what I really want to see from Parramatta, a top 2 finish and a grand final and a premiership.